Chapter 395. Giving Up 1. HM. Upon hearing this, Kang Qian's eyes immediately lit up. As a matter of fact, he had long asked the Dan Emperor if he would refine the divine elemental pill, and the Dan Emperor did not disappoint him. As a Dan Dao grandmother, the Dan Emperor would naturally refine the divine elemental pill. It was just that the herbs needed to refine divine elemental Dan were too precious, and Kang Qian had not raised enough, so he could only give up. However, now that he had this medicinal garden, it had helped him solve his big problem. Next, he only needed to look for a few more precious herbs, and then he would be able to let Emperor Dan refine the divine origin pill. With the divine origin pill, it would only take a few decades for them to cultivate to the 9th level of the divine separation stage. Just for this, the value of this medicinal garden was incalculable, much more precious than even an imperial treasure. Worthy of being a Dawnbreaker scattered immortal, I'm starting to look forward to the treasures in the back. Kang Qian surveyed the medicinal garden with satisfaction before entering the main palace. In the center with the two of them, Brahma Din and Little Gold. The main palace was surrounded by the other 48 palaces in the middle, and it was also 3 times the size of the other palaces, majestic and imposing, with a floating aura. As they were preparing to enter the main palace, Kang Qian's trio's gaze was suddenly attracted to an immortal pool next to the main palace, which was covered in milky white immortal liquid, bubbling with a thick spiritual chair. Amitabha Buddha, this ... is an extreme grade of spiritual liquid. Brahma heart chanted a Buddha's name, his eyes wide with incredulity. Gudong. Next to him, Zijin's stomach thumped, the corners of his mouth drooled, his eyes filled with greed. This is the essence of the spiritual energy in the extreme spirit stones are. A piece of extreme spirit stones can only refine 1 drop of extreme spirit liquid. This large pool. How many extreme spirit stones should there be? Go inside. What's inside is even more precious, Kang Qian reminded, although he was also shocked by the immortal pool in front of him. But when he thought of how powerful the Dawnbreaker scattered immortal was, he felt that there was nothing to be fussed about. After all, Broken Dawn's scattered immortal even had a half-immortal artifact. You kid really got rich this time. Emperor Dan was also overwhelmed with emotion. Although Kang Qian was constantly having strange encounters, this one should be the biggest one. In the Broken Dawn Immortal Mansion, there were magic treasures for magic treasures, spirit stones for spirit stones, techniques for techniques, and divine abilities for divine abilities, almost everything. Not to mention Kang Qian. Even if it was replaced with a figure like the War Elder who came, he would be incomparably excited. Kid, a piker's sin is not a sin. Your kid getting the dawn-breaking immortal mansion will surely attract a lot of jealousy. Be careful, at least that half-immortal artifact. Don't use it until you reach the harmonization stage, Emperor Dan reminded. Kang Qian nodded. This point of reasoning was very clear to him. What's more, he had already made up his mind to give that half-immortal artifact to his eldest brother. The 9-turned Zhuanggong cultivated by Senior Enforcement Elder was not the complete version, so he could only raise his physical body to the level of an imperial treasure artifact. But I have obtained the complete version of the 9-turned Zhuanggong in the spirit sealing space. So as long as I can cultivate it to the grand completion realm, and my physical body can be comparable to an immortal artifact, the mere fact that it's a semi-immortal artifact isn't all that important. Kang Qian's heart was filled with confidence. At the same time, he was also clear that a half-immortal weapon was just as precious. Without a strong strength, as soon as he used a half-immortal weapon, he would inevitably be hunted down by existences such as the War Elder. So a half-immortal weapon in his hands was simply chicken ribs, and it would be better to give it to elder brother. After thinking about it, Kang Qian entered the palace, his eyes carefully scanning away. Brother, look, it's the heaven-breaking blade. Little Jin's cheers came from not far ahead. Brahma's heart's voice also came over, The inner mansion stone tablet is here. As long as you refine it, you will be able to control the entire Broken Dawn immortal mansion. Kang Tia sniffed and walked over. At this moment, little Jin was staring with wide eyes and a face full of excitement at a long silver blade that was stuck upside down on a huge stone platform. This silver blade was more than a jong long. Its body was snow white and translucent, and there were countless runic symbols flashing vaguely, with a killing aura that was compelling. Looks, this knife is very ordinary, not a little bit of immortal weapon momentum. But Kang Tia can see at a glance that this knife is extraordinary, even if standing still there. Also exudes a compelling momentum. Kang Tia stretched out his hand to touch this silver-colored long knife. However, a powerful shock force was transmitted from the top of the knife, instantly sending Kang Tia flying out. Brother, Kang Tia, Zijin and Fan Dim were startled and cried out in shock. Unhindered, Kang Tia stood up, patted the dust on his body, and marveled, the half-immortal artifact is truly extraordinary. I'm afraid that with my strength, I simply can't refine it, let alone use it. Zijin was deflated when he heard this. He had wanted to see the power of the heaven-breaking blade. That's right, a half-immortal weapon is very powerful. If you want to activate it, you must at least have the power of a harmonization stage seal king level. Van Din nodded. Wouldn't this be something that can only be looked at, but not used? It's really unpleasant. Little Gold was filled with depression. All right, I'm going to refine the inner mansion stone tablet first, so you guys look around and see if there are any Imperial treasure weapons. Kang Tia patted Little Gold's head, and then went to refine the huge stone monument on one side. Little Gold smiled with anticipation and hurriedly pulled Van Din to look for an Imperial-grade treasure weapon. The inner mansion stone monument was about the size of a person. Kang Tia walked in to follow it, and saw the 4 golden characters of the dawn-breaking immortal mansion on it, shining brightly. Divine thoughts probed into it, and Kang Tia began to refine it. There were many prohibitions in the stone tablet. Wanting to refine it was not something that could be done in a short period of time. Kang Tia simply sat down, refining the stone tablet while using the Tao God and Dharma God to cultivate. Time passed day by day, and a month later, Brahma Heart and Little Gold returned to Kang Tia with disappointed faces. It's true that the greater the expectations, the greater the disappointment. Who can tell Monkey Master why there isn't even a single Imperial treasure weapon in the Dawnbreaker Immortal Mansion? Little Gold sat not far from Kang Tia with a depressed look on his face. Heh. Brahma Din smiled and came and said, "This is normal, even if he is a loose immortal. If he wants to refine a half-immortal artifact, he has to consume huge resources. If the Broken Dawn loose immortal refines another Imperial treasure artifact, then even if he's a loose immortal, he won't be able to chip in enough materials for refining half-immortal artifacts." In fact, he had already been guessing that the Broken Dawn scattered immortal didn't have an Imperial-grade treasure weapon, because Imperial-grade treasure weapons were very precious, and even scattered immortals would find it difficult to obtain them. And since the Broken Dawn scattered immortal already had a half-immortal artifact, it was inevitable that he wouldn't get a useless Imperial-grade treasure artifact. I really want to dismantle that useless half-immortal weapon and replace it with an Imperial-grade treasure weapon. Little Gold grinned. If the War Elder knew of such thoughts of yours, I'm afraid he would be the first to slaughter you. Brahma Heart laughed, then seemed to think of something, and with a flutter in his heart, he said, "Actually, the Broken Dawn scattered immortal also has an Imperial-grade treasure weapon." "Oh, where is it?" Zijin's eyes instantly lit up and asked anxiously. "It's the Broken Dawn Immortal Mansion," Van Din said with a smile. Broken Dawn Immortal Mansion. Little Gold's eyes widened with incredulity. He hadn't thought that the Broken Dawn Immortal Mansion was also a magic treasure, which caused him to instantly fail to react and fall into a daze. It's hard to believe that you thought that an ordinary immortal mansion could stay safely in the nine heavens mirage realm. Fan Din laughed, his eyes revealing a glint of light, bright eyes. Looking towards Zijin, the Broken Dawn immortal mansion itself is a very powerful royal-grade treasure weapon, only that it belongs to the defensive type, and apart from its defense, its attack power is only comparable to that of a royal-grade treasure weapon. Upon hearing Van Qin's explanation, Zijin immediately looked dazed. Finally, there is a royal-grade treasure artifact, Zijin sighed. His eyes slightly glanced at Kangxia, who was refining the stone tablet, and frowned. It seems like it will be difficult for my brother to refine it in a short period of time. I'm going to take this opportunity to take Divine Elemental Pill to cultivate. Good, I always feel as if there is a crisis coming. It's better for you to raise your strength quickly. I also need to cultivate. Fan Din nodded. The two of them immediately sat beside Kangxia and closed their doors to cultivate, while Kangxia and the others were in seclusion within the immortal mansion. The 6 harmonization stage Seal King powerhouses that had blockaded the entire immortal mansion were already very anxious. It's already been 3 years. Why haven't those little guys come out yet? Could it be that the test within the immortal mansion is so difficult? A black-robed old man frowned as he looked at the Dawnbreaker immortal mansion. At the edge of the Nine Heavens illusion realm, his brows furrowed.